Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of 1 Million Cups Chico. My name is Nicholas Stamper, and I'm going to be your host for today's presentations. First, I'm going to talk for a few minutes about 1 Million Cups Chico, its mission, and then I'm going to hand it off to both of our presenters for their 6-minute presentation, and then about 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A each. Shortly after that, we'll wrap up and then have a little bit more of a networking chat. So 1 Million Cups was created by the Kauffman Foundation. The purpose of this foundation works alongside educators, researchers, and other partners to better understand and improve the environment in which entrepreneurs start and grow business. 1 Million Cups is a free weekly program to educate, engage, and connect local entrepreneurs. It's an environment where you get to have different conversations with different entrepreneurs. The overall mission behind 1 Million Cups is to, again, not only lower the barrier of access to education resources for entrepreneurs, but to be surrounded by a community and an environment that helps you get ideas and feedback for your business. In the beginning, 1 Million Cups started off small in Kansas City, and today it's grown to over 131 communities. Moving forward, at each location, there are presentations each week. Today, we are lucky enough to have two awesome presenters joining us, James Bacon with Edficiency and Jovan Samonte with PremiumShotz. They'll each have 6 minutes to present and then 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. If you want to know more about 1 Million Cups or how to present, please feel free to join our amazing community online and visit our platform at www.1millioncups.com/Chico. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to James.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. I think everyone can see that at this point.
Yep.
Correct. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm James Bacon, the head of outreach and operations here at Edficiency. So thought I'd go ahead and share just up front in case it's helpful, some things that I'd be happy to talk about today if getting feedback on how you think things are clearly presented or not in the presentation, or if you have thoughts on building partnerships to, or scaling communication as you grow as a business, or even since we're an education company, if you just have friends in education, it's always fun to talk to people in that space. So in case that's helpful to have in your mind up front as I'm going, thought I'd start with that. Just a super quick little bit about me. I started my career as a teacher in Arkansas. It's actually where I met my wife. But kind of have worked in a lot of different schools and nonprofits and districts throughout my career, did some time abroad as well, oversaw hiring at Boston Public Schools most recently before Edficiency, got a master's in education entrepreneurship before doing this. And I'm on my school board actually in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is where I am now and near where we're based. So thinking about kind of why we exist, if you have friends in education or kids that have gone through school, you might kind of hear this often, that one of the biggest problems is that there's just never enough time. Time is one of the most valuable resources in schools, but the way we organize our time is often, especially middle and high school, sending the same kids to the same teacher at the same time for the same number of minutes with the same other kids every single day on repeat for the whole year. But as you might imagine, not all those kids in that room at that time always need the same thing. And so more and more schools are trying to figure out how to rethink time and be more responsive and personalized in how they're supporting students and their success. So what a lot of schools are moving to do is make more flexible parts of their day. And so a flex period, as it's often referred to, is a time, normally 20 to 40 minutes in the middle of high school where kids don't go to the same place every day. It's intended to be flexible and responsive based on students' needs and wants and what teachers think the students need and want to offer. But as you'd imagine, schools aren't normally designed to manage that type of logistical challenge that entails, keeping track of kids, making sure kids show up where they're supposed to, all that stuff. And so that's really where we were born. So this is my partner, Joe, back when he was teaching in New London High School, physics and chemistry. They were trying to navigate this exact problem and just were really having trouble with the logistics. But Joe was in the Army and worked on database management and operations. And so he could kind of visualize a way that the back end could work and decided over a summer to teach himself enough to code an initial software version that the school could use. And so then other schools in the area started hearing about it, started expanding. And so that's kind of what took us to then decide, well, it seems like a lot of schools could be doing this and probably use something like this. And so we started trying to make this bigger and reach more schools. And so our solution is a software that really just helps to automate and simplify all the logistics around flexible time, so teachers and staff at schools can focus on kids rather than logistics. So the way it works is we let teachers offer a session on whatever they want. So most of the time, tutoring options and academic interventions are something that schools offer, but really it could be anything: clubs, enrichment activities, assemblies, extracurriculars, just fun stuff. So it really is a way to give teachers and students more choice and flexibility in their day, which really kids especially get really excited about. But then teachers can request kids they want to see. Students can request to go to different teachers on different days based on what they want to do or think they need. And our system knows what is most important between all those requests. So we then assign rosters until every kid's assigned, and then notify kids where they're supposed to be. Teachers get a full list of all their kids and take attendance, so every kid's easily accounted for. As you'd imagine, it's a pretty important thing for schools to make sure they know where kids are at all times. So some things that make us different from really any of the other options I've seen out there, whether it's the DIY options, the paper pass systems, or Google Sheet systems, or really even other software that exists in this space, we automate the process to make sure every kid's accounted for, no matter what. Humans don't have to manually do any of that process to account for it. We will take care of that for schools. We also make sure we assign kids intelligently with what matters most first, rather than having a home base and hoping we can find a way to move kids around to, get somewhere else and free up a spot. And I think that's a big difference for us. Lastly, we're also really flexible. So you have until midnight the night before to request things to happen for the next day. So kids struggling on homework tonight could request to get help tomorrow if they wanted to. Teachers, based on today's lessons or even grading stuff at home, which happens more often than we wish it did for teachers, they could then request to see kids as soon as tomorrow if they wanted to, in whatever groups and for whatever reason they want. So schools, I think, tend to choose us because we do really make it easy to use and save them time, and they then can focus on increasing student achievement and opportunities and accessing other options like that. So like I said, we started in Wisconsin. Before I close, just I'd kind of share a little bit of context now for kind of like where we've grown. So we have a pretty decent nationwide presence, still growing though. And back several years ago, almost all of our schools were in Wisconsin, and now they only account for about a quarter of our schools, with North Carolina, Texas, California, especially being some of the states we've seen a lot of growth in. Since you all are in California, here's some of our districts that we work with. Some of them, none like right next to you. I guess Yuba City is pretty close to you all. But you'll notice another couple names a little bit closer to the Bay Area and kind of scattered across the state. And actually, I didn't tell you this, but my wife actually moved to Wisconsin when she was young, but from Chico, but moved to be closer to some family out here. So she was excited to know I was presenting to you all today. But so with that, I tried to keep it quick and concise, but, excited to, hear any thoughts you all have or questions you have. If you want to focus them on any of these, that's great, but not necessary. So really just excited to, engage and hear if anyone has questions and see where things go. So
right,
thanks again.
Give a hand up for James.
Thanks.
Right.
Thank you, James.
Yeah.
I'm Heather. I'm with Chico Start. That's super fun that your wife is from here. She graduated from PV or Chico High, or?
She moved when she was in second grade. So,
Okay.
so yeah, no, unfortunately. But one of her uncles still lives there actually. So,
Got you.
but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Small world.
Is this your first 1 million cups, or have you done other ones?
No, I've done a handful. So our chapter here is not very active anymore, actually. Like kind of after COVID, things kind of were up and down a lot. And so I don't know if anyway, so it's not super active here anymore, but I was a member here, and that's kind of how I got into it. And then I presented at a handful of them across the country like this before at this point over the last probably couple of years.
Sure. I have a couple of questions. Who's doing your sales, and who do you have on your team, and are you looking for investment or?
Yeah, great question. Oh, thank you for that. So up until just about a month ago, the team was just my partner and I. So basically my partner Joe did all the tech stuff, and still does. And I kind of did all the sales and customer support and marketing and, you know, all of the other sides of things for the most part. And then we just recently, though, because we started to grow so much, we just recently hired 2 people to help oversee some customer support work, so that we can hopefully have time to, you know, not just keep providing great customer support, but, you know, that, as you know, takes up a lot of your time over time. And so
Sure.
now hopefully we're going to have more capacity to do more elsewhere. On the investment side, we're totally bootstrapped, so we've taken no outside investment. Aren't necessarily actively looking for any at this moment. You know, I mean, who knows though? You never know, obviously, but no, but we're not actively looking for it at this time necessarily.
Explain again how it's integrated into the schools a little bit more, like how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, like, let's say you're a school, like you're a principal, you have this time of day that, you know, you want to be responsive and flexible on a daily basis. What happens normally is schools try to make that happen with spreadsheets and all sorts of like crazy, really time consuming pieces.
Right.
So what you would do is you'd come to us and you'd say, you know, we'd teach you how we operate. And if you think we're a good fit, what you do is you basically just give us some basic information, like who are your staff and students and what are your rooms on campus, so we can logistically put all the pieces together. And then we teach you how to teach your team. But basically, your teachers go in and just say, like, on this day, I want to offer tutoring to this group of kids or for this subject or whatever. And you just log into a website to put that in for your school specifically. Kids log into the same website once all the options are there, make requests in the same place. The system just basically then says, we know how many seats are available, who wants to be where, how do we match and make sure everything's maximized essentially. And then it assigns kids just every single day, gives them a new assignment. It'll email them so they know where to show up and go on that day, or teachers can give lists and project on their screens, however they want to make sure kids know. But otherwise, then kids just know where to go and show up there, and teachers have a list of who they're expecting. They take attendance like they normally would for any other class, and then move on doing whatever they want to do, tutoring, clubs, enrichment, whatever activities they're planning.
I'm sorry if I'm not. Is it during that flex time you're talking about, or is this after school, or is it? I guess that's kind of
so they use our software. So we like, it's like maybe a little hard if you're not like in a school, especially to like know kind of all the stuff. But like, so basically like what we're scheduling their rosters for is for their flex time. But we give them that list. Like we make the list around like midnight to 1 a.m. for every school, so that when everyone shows up to school that day, they know what to expect, whether their flex time is right away, at the middle of the day, the end of the day. They all have a different time of day for their flex time in their school. But we give that to them at the beginning of the day, so they know what to expect. It's not like, you know, chaos is ensuing all day long, hoping you figure out where people are going. You can make changes, obviously, day of, when and if you need to, and all that fun stuff too. But we schedule it for that time, but then they do the time however they want to do the time, right? Because they're offering whatever they're offering. We just make sure kids know what teachers are offering. Teachers have put a little planning into it and then know who they want to see. And then they take it from there in like real time in schools.
Okay. And that alleviates all of the paperwork, the spreadsheet, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Done. It saves them a lot of time. Okay.
Right. Yeah, like we hear like people basically spend like full-time job time, we're talking about, like to make the logistics work. And it's normally not even as flexible as our software lets them be. But
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, go for it, Kent.
Okay, yeah, so hopefully this is getting through. Not too much road noise. I got a street behind me. I'm on the road and I'm in Pahrump, Nevada at the moment.
Awesome.
Like we used to have like study hall back in the day, 50 years ago, whatever.
Yep.
So is that kind of like what flex time is now, or maybe something like that?
Yeah, so I would say like at its worst, flex time is just a glorified study hall. Like it's just, instead of going to a real class, you just go to a study hall room. But what we do is we let then that be more driven by intentionality between teachers and students and like what they want to do. So you're not just going to the same room every day to just sit there and study. Maybe sometimes that is what you choose to do if that's what a school chooses to offer. But yeah, that would be kind of like the worst case scenario, is everyone just kind of goes to what you would think of as a study hall. But now it's kind of like supercharging it, because now you can do all sorts of other things during that time and go to see different teachers in a way that's really organized and clean and takes everyone's input into account to know what matters most. Because obviously, Kent can't go to 2 different teachers at the same time. So we have to know between those 2 teachers that want Kent or what Kent wants to do, what is the most important thing for Kent that particular day, and put Kent in that space.
So you could customize it. So student A could go to something and student B could go somewhere else.
Yeah, that is like what we do. Like that is essentially exactly like what we enable schools to be able to do, so that, you know, today you go to my class for math tutoring, tomorrow you go to Jeff for a club, the next day you go to a study hall, you know, with Eva, because, you know, that's what you want to do or she wants you to do. And then the next day you make up your English test that you missed because you missed school last week, you know, or whatever the case is. But yeah, every day is different for every single kid, and every teacher sees a different mix of kids every day, but it's responsive to all those different inputs.
All right, cool.
That's really cool,
Absolutely.
because it's hard sometimes to connect with your teacher because they're so busy, right? So this
Yeah.
is an easy way just to schedule it and be done, and not try and email them. Maybe like, I want to come in next Thursday, but I need to, you know, or I need to come in right now. And they're like, I can't, you know, so
It's-
I think that's or doing it after school when kids have sports and they can't. Those are
Totally.
things
Or
that
maybe
are,
don't have a ride home, or the teacher has to go pick up
Right.
their kids and can't stay, you know, I mean, all those things that just, yeah, are not,
Exactly. So it's
are
taking
not
that piece of
possible.
putting it in when it could already be done, and not just they're sitting there, you know, drawing when they could be doing something. I mean, there's also going to
Yep.
be a percentage of them that are still going to do that, and that's what they're going to choose,
Sure.
but that's okay.
Right. Like sometimes, and that's even maybe sometimes what kids need to do some days, right?
Yeah.
Like I just need a break and I need
I
to
just
just
need to
draw
draw
because I
paint,
like
yeah.
to draw, right? That's also fine. Social emotional needs are important too. So
Absolutely. What have been your pain points and, I guess, positive responses from the schools, or, you know, feedback from them as far as the up and downs?
yeah, I mean, honestly, like feedback has been overall really well. I mean, like we, you know, like third-party rating sites, you know, like where people fill us out, like we actually like rank at the top, like, and kind of make these like lists because we have almost perfect ratings. Like customer support's been perfect ratings, 5 out of 5. And I think like our overall rating is like a 4.9 on all things essentially. And so that is like almost all of our business comes from just schools hearing about us from other schools. You know, and like normally we kind of see if like we do outreach, which we haven't really done since COVID hit. But before that, I was doing outreach, just trying to let people know we exist, because people didn't even know something like us was out there. And normally once we get into a new place, like people just start talking and then people just start coming on board. So I think about 60% comes from like word of mouth or referrals type stuff. And then about 40% comes from these days, like people finding our resources we've built online to help them think about this time and use it well, and then realize that we could provide a lot more value than that. And then, you know, there's a handful that comes from other things. I'd say, you know, we're pretty responsive to feedback. So like people ask for new features and like we always evolve and stuff like that. So, I mean, honestly, like there's not I don't know. I mean, like we haven't had too many like pain points in terms of like customer feedback, other than like sometimes people like want us to be something we're not, you know, like
Right.
we aren't like a hall pass system. And sometimes people are like, but can't you do your, can you design that for us? Cause we like this. So can you do that? You know, we're like, no, that's just not what we do. And we don't have a team to do that. So here's some other options that exist out there that maybe will work for you. But, you know, I mean, like otherwise, like occasionally, you know, like we get, well, I don't know, like we're also not afraid to say no when people ask us for new features, because like we will see the downward implications of, like, I think my partner's really good at that, like seeing, I get why it seems like this would be easier, like you think this would be easier or good for you to do if we added this new feature, but that impacts like a lot of the other ways the system works, where you won't actually be able to like maximize it, or it kind of like breaks elsewhere because, you know, you think this helps it, like it's a super quick thing here that has implications elsewhere that you just wouldn't want actually to deal with those ramifications of, you know. It's hard to think of a great example because I don't think we've had one in a while, but like sometimes schools maybe don't like hearing, like, we won't just do what you want us to do. Like, you know, we won't just add the feature because you say you want it.
Right.
But most of the time I will actually say, like, over time, schools end up appreciating that, because then they kind of like think about it more critically or understand things, or, you know, it helps them shift their strategy around being more purposeful in different ways, because then you know, we help them see things that maybe they weren't thinking of before, and why we wouldn't maybe like just always do everything that anyone wants us to do. But
Right, and over customizing things like that is like a nightmare, so.
also very true.
So I have to ask this question. Have you reached out to Chico Unified?
I have not. So like I said, like
Okay.
we haven't really done any active outreach since COVID. Like we even like stopped going to conferences like at that point, and like have just kind of restarted that, and stuff. So, like we've only done a few conferences, but I'm starting maybe to think about doing some more active outreach again now that we are growing our team to take on some of the customer support work where I actually have capacity freed up to reach out and be more targeted with some active outreach again in the next year. But no, I have not reached out to Chico Unified. So if you have any contacts there, feel free to connect me if you want. But yeah.
So it's funny. I've was with the Chamber of Commerce here for 12 plus years, and Kelly Staley, who is head of the school district, I think she's still there. So funny, I'm out of the realm now. I haven't paid attention, but let me see. If not, I can try and email her and connect and just let her know that we had you as a presenter, and to kind of take a look. And you never know.
Yeah. You never know.
Why you're here.
So true. Yeah, right. So you never know. So thank you.
Yeah,
If I can jump in here, I raised my hand here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sacramento million cups. You might approach them if you haven't already.
Sacramento's 1 million
Yeah,
cups.
100%.
Okay.
They're very active.
Okay, awesome.
Do you feel like, because I feel like even with COVID after the pandemic and everything, I feel like that kind of stifled the typical 7 to 3 schedule. Even when I was in middle school and high school, I knew lots of kids who really struggled with that format and really weren't getting a lot of the first period, second period, third period, fourth period, hour 15. Do you think that's going to go away at a certain point?
Oof, that's crazy. You're asking me to predict something that's hard to predict because education is really slow to change, as you might expect. I will say, I mean, I'm not hoping we go through what we went through from 2020 to 2020, whatever. But, I will say that, even for all the bad that came from it, I do think that it really started to make people in general, but schools in particular in this context, rethink things that they hadn't always had a reason to rethink before, and try things that were different. And so I think we've seen people open to new ideas, now that things are getting settled again. It's I think there was a little bit of we're just fatigued. Please don't keep giving us new stuff. We need to slow down a little bit here. But I think broadly, now that people aren't as much in that world, I think we're getting to okay, people are used to using technology to engage in different ways now in schools. We're thinking about time differently. We know we need to be responsive because we lost a lot of time in many cases. So I think that we're moving in that direction. I do think there's reality, though, that it's challenging to change so many of those structures, and it's scary, and it's a scale that's crazy when we're talking about public education. So I don't know how fast it'll happen, but I do think that it's moving in that direction more than it was before. And we even talk internally, we have schools come to us sometimes that they want to be there, but it's hard. There's not buy-in, whatever the case is, they just can't quite get there yet, but that want us to start scheduling flexibly their entire day. So that maybe random times kids are blocked into certain places, but other times it's just totally flexible, or kids have to go to all the different classes, but they choose when they go to classes that day. And there's parts of that we can kind of back our way into helping them do with our current software, but there's also, we're not designed for that necessarily. And so, we've talked to schools that might be going in that direction. We'll see where things go. We work with them, and some that maybe it'd have to be new software we develop all together to help enable that if we were going to be a part of that. But we have internally some ideas in that realm, but again, some of it's kind of chicken and egg. We don't want to div, a ton of resources to, this was built because there was a need. We filled a need and we grew because that need existed in a lot of places. With stuff like that, it's sometimes hard because it takes a lot of resources when there's not maybe an active need you're filling. And so it's always striking that right balance of how much time and energy to put there when I don't think we've quite filled our potential in the market, even with what we already have. So, but anyway.
Is it only being used for junior high through high school, or are they, there isn't that flex time study hall for,
So it just looks a lot different in elementary schools, the way they think about flexible time, because you spend most of your day with the same teacher and a lot in most elementary schools for most grades. So we've had some elementary schools talk to us, or, schools that we work with where they are maybe a K-8 and we work with their 6th through 8th grade, maybe ask about potentially ways we could help them with the lower grades. but normally the way they need to be flexible, it's not as many teachers needing to see them. It's just like normally like I need to pull, like one person needs to pull a kid or a group of kids out from one teacher, and it just looks different. So yeah, we don't work with any currently. I think we maybe have a few schools that like have 5th graders on our system and stuff, but that's normally the lowest.
We got time for one more question, Kent.
Okay, yeah, I got my thing froze up earlier, so I moved it to a better thing. I just want to recommend maybe Sacramento if that didn't get through.
Oh, yeah, we got
Uh,
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
I
was
did.
good.
It did come through,
Okay, good.
and thank
All
you
right.
for that. Yeah, you were freezing a little, but I did get it.
Yeah, okay, good. All right.
Okay, James.
And thank you. Yeah.
What one more thing? What can the 1 Million Cups Chico community do for you?
Yeah, I mean, I will say probably, the stuff that I listed up there, like if you have any thoughts on any of those things for any reason, like if you have thoughts on trying to scale communication as you grow, it's just like a hard thing, I think, to do well, with like our customers, for instance, that a lot of you might have experience in, or if you just have contacts, in the education space, whether they be teachers or superintendents or anyone between, if you think that they'd be interested in like talking to people that have ideas or products in the education space, and I'd love to connect with anyone, even if it's not necessarily just about Edficiency. It's always fun to connect with other educators, so if you have any of those come to mind and you're interested in doing so, you have my email, so feel free to just do an intro or whatever you're comfortable with. But
Perfect. Awesome. Let's give one more hand for James with Edficiency.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
Yeah, thank you all so much. This was great.
All right.
You're welcome to stay on. We have another presenter here today.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna
I
move
think
on
I
to
will, if that's
Jovan.
okay.
Perfect. We are gonna go ahead and move on to Jovan with PremiumShotz. All right. We go ahead and get Zoom back out. I have it. Unless you want to take over. You can sit over here and scroll through it. I don't mind.
You don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's easier, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
So what should it be?
You can go ahead and sit and just look right at the camera.
Should I look?
And normally we have a camera, our owl cracked, so we can't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would face the webcam
Face the left. Okay.
and your screen sharing. So just start the
Did you
presentation.
want to sit here? And
It can. It's all.
they've got to be there.
Yeah.
No worries.
And then
All right.
welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jovan Samonte. I am the Chief Entertainment Officer at PremiumShotz. So a little bit about myself. I'm an 11-year Navy veteran. I'm a father, husband, actually father of 2, a 5-year-old daughter, a 1-year-old son. And basically, my wife and I started this company in 2017 as more of a side hustle. And my wife was a medical assistant for Sutter Health, and I worked at the VA hospital in the logistics department. And for us, we love to travel, and when we travel, we love to bring our photo video equipment with us, our drones, and then other gear. And so we figured July we started this, and what happening was we ended up doing weddings and social events. And then I went to this conference in 2018 in Dallas, Texas in January, and kind of opened my mind up to more, opened my mind to more things than just regular like photo boothing. And here I am. I established relationships with the Golden State Warriors. We've been with the Warriors since Oracle we took part of the grand opening for Chase Center. Adobe, Anthropology, took the grand opening for David Buster's in Daly City in 2018. Along with that is in 2018, we found ourselves traveling all across to Southern California to do activations. And then in 2019, we found ourselves traveling all across the United States, working with one company in the Bay Area called Palo Alto Networks, which is a large cybersecurity company. And from there, we were traveling to Austin, Texas, New York, Miami, Vegas, Seattle. And then from there in 2021 global. Unfortunate, we did I think it was on a Sunday, we did something for the Warriors for 6,000 fans. After that, I remember that Thursday COVID hit, so there was no events. So I told my wife, she's been a stay-at-home mom since 2018, because I told her like I had big hopes and dreams to be able to work with big corporate clients. And then I went ahead and I had a full-time job still. So I told her I want to go back to college. So last year, I graduated from Golden Gate University with my bachelor's in business as a summa cum laude.
Awesome.
And then along with that is I decided to resign from my 20-year government job last August to pursue this business full-time. And it led up to me doing part, I took the leap of faith last August. I took part of doing the opening for the video game for NBA 2K23. They hired us to do 2 major activations for that. Along with that is we work with Damon John. He's the guy from Shark Tank, Fubu founder. We did the video production for Placer Valley 2022 Business Summit. And we did the video production, we did the custom video green screen and VIP photography. And for Damon John to reach out to me and say, hey, I love your work, give me your business card and I would love to work with you. And he posted us on social media. It really says a lot, especially from a guy at his caliber. Now here I am, I want to be able to inspire others and to kind of go into detail as far as what we do. So what we are is an exclusive photo video production company that specializes in brand activation and interactive experiences tailored to the client's vision. So we pretty much cover anything special events related. These are like one of the cool things that we do is these photo sports cards. Sacramento Kings, we acquired them this year. We did this during the playoffs on the left here for Golden One, along with the Kings. This is another one that we facilitated during the playoffs. This is our Light the Beam experience. And then it transcends into the beam shooting up into the sky. And then we did this for a whole 2-week run. This is another one. We do a 360. This is for Golden One during the playoffs for the Kings. And then the transcends into the beam shooting up in the sky as an outro. And then we do, anyways, we did the Chase Center grand opening. So we did this whole production set with fresh flowers and we did this custom design in the background. We did custom photo folders and when we did prints. This is our custom mosaic experience, is one of our experiences that we did at Oracle for the Warriors. It's going blank on me. This is our photobot experience. So it's a robot that engages with your guests at your event and it does physical prints along with digitals. I don't know if you guys watch Back to the Future. So we had a client that said, Johan, I want you to put my employees as if they're transporting time in the DeLorean. So we want that facilitated in our parking lot. So we got this DeLorean. They're only one of 30 in the world.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we put this in their parking lot here on the left, and on the right, we did another activation. They wanted their employees in a red vest on a hoverboard for the clock tower. And that's what we did for them.
That's so awesome.
I'm running out of time here, so I'm just
Okay,
kind of,
Good. You're fine. You have plenty of time.
this is our custom ball pit experience. This is one of 40 something experiences that we offer. So what it is, we customize the exterior of the ball pit and we match it to their theme. And then we take a photo along with the video. We also take photos on cocktails here on the left. This was in 2018, and then later that year, client had asked us if we could put their logo, and these are all edible and they dissolve
That's awesome.
within minutes. We also do these custom traditional enclosure photo booth rentals on the right, where we brand it, and then here on the left was for a cosmetic brand where we did a custom build out for the client for a trade show. So as far as photography goes, we do anything from event photography to product photography for headshots for the LinkedIn profile and sports photography. here on the left, we are featured on People magazine. We did a surprise engagement on a rooftop and gave it to my client. And 2 days later, People magazine contacted me for the rights of the photo. And then here on the right, last year we took this with Dave and John, along with the Roosevelt Chamber, which I also sit part of as a board member for the ambassador team. And along with that is we specialize in brand activations, anything from analytics, such as email capture, survey questions, of that nature. And that concludes my presentation in regards to what I do.
Very cool.
Yeah, is there well, what we are in a nutshell is like we're pretty much photo video creators. You give us basically what you're envisioning, and then what we do is we help you bring your vision to life, anything photo video related. So it's been quite a journey for me to where I'm at today. I just want to be able to share my experiences because I come from being homeless at one point in time in my life, and filing for foreclosure and bankruptcy. And you know, I served our country for 9 months on deployment, and I had an ex-fiance that cheated on me after I bought a house for us, and suicidal thoughts of that nature. So it's just one of those things where I want to inspire people and say, even though you hit rock bottom of life,
Yeah.
there's always that light at the end of the tunnel showing that you could do anything and everything, and sky's the limit. And I realized, being my own boss, you're in control of your own destiny. So here I am trying to live the dreams of where I want to be, and which is financial freedom. I think for me it is.
Kudos on your
Awesome.
entrepreneurship journey, all of your journeys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's give a hand for Jovan. Come on. Absolutely. What a great presentation. Absolutely awesome.
What is your background? Like, how did you get into photography, and how did you get so good at it? And what is your team like?
It was all so.
Hop on up here.
I have 12 years in photography video, so it's watching YouTube and literally just
Yeah.
trial and error.
Yeah.
You live and you learn, right? And from that is, I tell people who you are as a person is who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, you don't have to surround yourself with all these people in this room. All it takes is one person to keep you inspired, motivated. And so as far as team goes, we're a team of 10.
Okay.
We're a team of 18 during pre-COVID,
Sure,
and unfortunately, I had to let guys go because I couldn't sustain to keep them, just because there were really nothing going. Yeah, and in regards to I said 12 years of photography video. That's how I got into that, and just practicing, just fiddling with things. And for me, I love to be creative, like because every year working with corporate clients, we're always innovating. So if I'm just doing traditional things that people normally do, then it really doesn't really set me apart from others. And like this year, I sit part of the ambassador for the Roosevelt Chamber. I'm also part of the Strategic Alliance Director role for MPI, which is Meetings Professionals International. I also part of Cal SAE. I'm also part of the California Asian Chamber. I'm also part of the Sacramento Asian Chamber. So I'm as far as outreach, I'm very, very involved with the community.
Yeah,
I'm not just all about, trying to pitch you ideas of what we do, but I'm all about giving back, especially during the holiday season. I want to instill in my kids how important it is. Growing up, my dad was a janitor, my mom worked in retail. They didn't teach us anything about entrepreneurship. It was more of, stick to a 9 to 5, medical, dental benefit,
Right, get
pension,
that.
right?
Be there
And-
for 30 years.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And for me, like it was my best friend that opened me up to entrepreneurship. He owns an optical shop, and it was just to be able to kind of see that, and for him to kind of pursue that kind of journey where he was going was very just inspiring. And here I am doing what I'm.
Why are you true? Sorry. No, I think that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
What are your goals for PremiumShotz in the future? Like, where would you, what is in your mind? What is your next step? Like, where would you like to go? Like, what would you like to see?
So I want to maintain going global. So I just came back from Cancun. I was there for a 1-week conference. And it was all about, building your brand, right? And I told you I sit part of a strategic alliance director role. So I was there for WEC, which is World Economic Congress. And I actually just recently this year teamed up with Live Nation. So they want us to do stuff on a national level. So for me to be able to take pride in what I do and for Live Nation to see what I do is pretty remarkable. And we acquired the 49ers this year. That was my goal. We just teamed up with the Sacramento. Well, actually, it's the Safe Credit Union Convention Center. They do a lot of events, and for them to take pride of what I do is pretty amazing. So what I want to do basically is eventually give up my role because I'm the only marketing guy. But for me, it's not stressful actually. I tell people when you wake up in the morning is how your day's gonna end. So like for me, working a 9 to 5 was just not, I work remote since 2017 and I still resigned from my job. That goes to show how mental health, like I suffer from mental health myself. And which PTSD. And I just want to tell people you got to wake up every morning loving what you do. And that's something I realized after 20 plus years. It's something that I was just instilled in me by my parents. And I have no blame in them at all. It's just that I noticed the financial freedom that I have being your own boss really says a lot. But eventually what I want to do is just build a team, a solid team, which I'm still currently building, and eventually transition to another business. But as of right now, I love what I do. I'm not looking at any investors. I'm just wanting to grow the business to the best I can to my capacity.
So you do a lot of trade shows and stuff too?
I do.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
We'll talk about our go-to. Actually, I'll let you talk. Since you're the host.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions or anybody on the screen?
Yeah, my dad had a photo blow up business, did courtroom exhibits and things. But it sounds like you're doing maybe doing custom photos, like to build brands and things. So it sounds like you're doing what do they call that, stock or something more for getting custom photographs. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's more anything with, like when I say brand activations, it's basically spreading brand awareness for corporate clients. Like, we work with nonprofits, we work with schools. We don't very much work with small businesses. There's just a slight few, but I think my bread and butter for what I do is mainly like corporate entities, because I tell people, right, as a small business, like how do you scale from working for small, medium business to large scale corporations, right? Is because it's the consistency, right? Whereas a wedding, how often are you gonna do a wedding? And so how often is a cousin or a sister gonna hire you? It's pretty much slim to none. I mean, I did the wedding fairs, whereas like the corporate world, right? If they love the innovation, they're gonna hire you 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year, if not more. And that's residual income that comes in. And if you're creative in what you do in a creative space, that's what will really set you apart from doing other things.
On that note, actually, if I can ask a question, like, do you find that most of your customers come to you where like they maybe saw something you did or someone did and they like have a very specific ask? Or is it they come to you and say, like, we know you do work in this space, like, and you drive a lot of the creativity around, like what then you like, end up doing for them?
So 80% of our business is through word of mouth and community outreach. I just recently met with Universal Pictures in Studio City in LA last month. So for them, they saw us at the Kings playoffs. One of the producers there was so intrigued how we created this Light the Beam for the Kings. And they were just like, hey, Jovan, like, I want to learn what you do. Can I invite you over to Studio City where our hub is? And to answer your question, it's more word of mouth is how they find us normally. We have a social media presence, but I gotta be honest with you. Working in my field, there's NDAs that we sign. So working for celebrities and that, I'm not allowed to
Can't do
disclose
that.
that. And, you know, we work with like venture capitalists and I can't even disclose the names. I would love to, right? To say I worked with so-and-so. But it comes with the nature of the business, you know. I love what I do. But to answer your question, most of it is just word of mouth and they see us at these events.
Well, and I guess like when they see you at the event, do they like say like, hey, I saw you did this thing here. I want you to do that thing over here for me? Or is it like, hey, I saw that thing, it was cool. What kind of stuff do you do? And then like, you know, you walk them through like helping them realize the potential of what they could do at their event rather than just like hey, I know you do the ball thing. I want the ball thing. Or I know you do the light thing. Can you do the light thing for me?
So what happens is like, for example, that lady from she's a PR for Universal, and she fell in line and did experience, and then she says, "Is this a King's thing?" She asked my team, "Is this a King's internal thing that they did, or with production, or was this they subcontract the work?" So my team was like, "No, they subcontracted the work to us," and then they're like, "Well, who'd I talk to?" So normally what happens is I set up a meeting, because my deck presentation is about 50. It's a long presentation. I work with planners and everything, and they're like, "Javon, you got to minimize this." And for me, it's hard because for me to be able to tell you like what we do and what we're capable of doing kind of opens up to your mind to more creative things. It kind of gives your mind rolling as far as what we've done. So the process is normally just try to set aside a meeting, normally a 45-minute meeting where I bring physical samples. Like, I'm going to show you one thing. We did this custom basketball card, right? I'm going to do this on I'm not very big into virtual. So, but then for you to be able to see this in person says a whole lot from something, and people are willing to pay a lot of money. I gotta say, like it's for me, I just can't persuade this on a virtual call. You know, if you're out of the country, I've done it. It's totally fine. I totally understand, but typically, it's usually just setting these time aside to meet one on
So I
one.
was thinking the beam thing would be strictly like the king said, Joanne, you can't do those with any other team. Like this is our beam thing. That's what I was.
Yeah, they're the
thought
ones that
was-
created the beam. Yeah,
Okay,
That's
okay,
James
okay,
saying.
Right.
okay.
It's a nice card.
It is.
So how long, like if a company has a team of 100 employees and you do an event for them, how long does it take you to process the photos and get them the product?
so one station, one card, we're able to filter 40 to 50 cards an hour.
Okay.
On
So
site.
on site. So that being said, if you have 500 people and you want everyone to get one, then we would have to set up multiple stations to help facilitate that.
Sure.
And I'm going to be honest with the client. I say, you're not going to have all those 500. Let's say half of that. Because you're going to have to pay, I'm going to have to charge per station if like, because people custom build their packages.
Oh.
So it's not one of those things where, okay, this is what we do and there's no like leeway in regards to building it, if that makes sense. Like what the package is what it is. No, they custom build it tailored to what you want. Do you want prints? Do you want? So everything is literally, we build it from scratch, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And do you own all of those?
I do. Yes. We invested about over $100,000 in equipment
Wow.
over a period of going into, we'll hit our 6-year anniversary this month. So thank you.
I was listening on Zoom.
Mhm.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, great presentation. I listened to your presentation too on Zoom, by the way. Sorry, I was a little late.
Deepa's our director of Chico Start.
Yeah,
That's okay, cool.
yeah, I mean, great presentations, both you guys. I mean, and what amazing origin stories, right? Right, and for what you guys do. Congratulations on your trajectory.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm working my way
I
there.
think it's great about entrepreneurs that they don't really set limits for themselves. You know, I think entrepreneurs don't really set limits for themselves, or they'll like, if they do, it's more like, oh, this is an elephant and I have to take one bite at a time, but I know where I'm going. So anyway,
I tell people you got to stay hungry and stay humble for
Yeah, I
sure.
think it's
Absolutely.
how many employees do you have?
We have 10 currently. I'm still building my team. There's a guy
I heard
that
you talk
wants,
about that.
so I spoke at Sac State for and that's how I got here because
The
someone
Carlton
found
Center.
me.
Was it
Yeah.
Cameron?
You know what? I'd have to look at my.
It was the Carlton Center.
Yeah, so I was dealing with Cameron, but then someone DM'd me on her Instagram and says, "Oh, we saw your presentation. I would love for you to present."
Yeah.
So that's what led me to learn more about. So I'm part of the Sacramento Asian and California Asian. So those guys, Glenn Fuji, he's the director. So he says, "Hey, I think you'd be a good fit for 1 million cups," and that's how kind of that started from there.
Yeah.
This is my third time presenting, not for 1 million, it was two for 1 million cups, and I actually spoke for my industry conference in Vegas. So I'm trying to get more into public speaking. I just want to be able
Great
to
place to practice.
Yeah.
share my
Absolutely.
story about where I come from, and
Yeah,
I really come from the
You're gonna get
trenches.
different reactions from different communities, right? And that'll help you refine based on your audiences, right? I mean, I mean, how many people here would love to be able to, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go off this for a second, about like what you do. How many people here would love to take what's in their mind and have it like created into an experience? To me, right? To me, that sounds like, that's, so when he was asked, when the gentleman on the screen was, James, sorry, was asking you a minute ago, like, how, when people come to you, and what are they at? Like, oh, I saw the light thing. Can you do the light thing for me? Or I saw the ball thing or anything. I mean, it's earlier in the presentation, you talked about how you work with people on their idea and then you help bring it to life.
Correct.
Is that, did I hear it
That
correctly?
is correct.
All right, that, I don't know how many people in the world could say they do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that was my question too, is to ask you like who is doing similar to what you do, or maybe not, or not at all. Is there anybody out there
I could say
that's
there's probably less than 3% of
Wow,
what we
okay.
do. So we have this thing, it's called Photo Booth Expo, and I went to this thing back in 2018 of January, and it was like a small seminar, maybe of like less than 80 people.
Mhm.
And that's where someone from this Facebook group had asked me to go there to kind of expand my mind to more. And I heard this guy, he was like doing stuff for Disney, and he's like, "Oh, we did this activation, and I charged the client $25,000 for 5 hours." And I'm like, "Holy jeez!" And I'm like, and I was just very. It is exactly. And then, and I got to be honest with you, right? And coming from working a 9 to 5 to instilling all that, like after a week, I told my wife, "Do not go back to your job. I will keep my full-time job. I have this mission, this dream board of where I want to take this. Just trust me." And she was looking at me like, okay, like, because she comes from, she's so used to working. So here I am, every year I was targeting, coming from California in 2018, and then 2019 traveling all across the US, and then 2020 going global. I was on a manhunt, even with a full-time job, because I had like 400 hours to burn every year. So it's like 200 I had to use. So
Right.
I would use that wisely to be able to do my activations and travel. So I had a lot of flexibility. So I got to thank my job for giving me the opportunity
Oh,
to
absolutely.
be able to do that. Because there's a lot of jobs where you just can't say tomorrow, "Hey, I can't go to work." Like I literally, there were times where tomorrow's like, "Hey, I can't work." And they're like, "Yeah, that's fine." Because I usually have a counterpart I work with. He's my backup.
Right.
nice?
And then it got to the point where we had new management, and mental health got to me. So I
Too much.
couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
That's all. James, do you find that to be true too? Sometimes you gotta like really check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like, dude, I think we all get so passionate about, sorry, that was an old rap reference.
Old.
Old school. I feel like a lot of us we're so passionate about what we do. Whether it's working here, not to say everybody here is less passionate than I am, but or other things in our life. And sometimes it can be all consuming. And it can be hard because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are not as good at balancing because they see that goal, they see that. And I think this is actually a very common conversation around either too much isolation or too much on our plate, or how do we, the conversation I've been having with people almost every day for the last 2 weeks with certain entrepreneurs has been, how do I buy back my time?
You can't.
Can't buy back what you've done, but moving forward, It's about like hire outsourcing and, you know. where
Making
you
the
can
choices
and
you need to,
making the
like you
choices.
did.
Yeah, like
Which
you
is
did.
very commendable,
Yeah.
'cause that's hard.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, there's sacrifices that go into it too. Don't think it's like,
No,
I
no,
tell
no.
people, it's
Yeah.
not easy. Like I'm out. I'm only home if I'm spending time with my kids, like in my family, right? But outside of that, I could say I'm out there like networking.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people, like my wife, she's introverted. So this year she started her own company. And I really commend her for that because she's seen me, how I was able to
Yeah.
grow our company as a whole. And she kind of stepped back from her role. She was more of the back end. She did a lot of video stuff for us. And she's a licensed esthetician. So she owns her, so she does customized facials and lashes and waxing. And then she also does permanent jewelry. So she has her own studio.
Did that.
She did it yesterday, actually, for Downtown Tuesdays in
That's
Roseville.
so
It was
funny.
like,
My daughter and I just went, it was in Oak Park.
Oh,
There's a
really?
girl there, that's my daughter goes to school across the country, but she, oh, that's funny. Yeah, we got our bracelets.
so now we're both self-employed. And I tell people, you know, it's not easy. You got to put in the work. And my wife's struggle right now is how does she build her brand, right? So I say, hey, you got to go to these networking events. You got to be part of the chamber. Like
Right.
you got to be more in tune with the community. No one's gonna find you sitting in your studio. It doesn't work that way.
No.
And because she's more introverted, where I'm more extroverted. So for me, I love to engage with people. And you know, at the end of the day, when I go to these networking events, it would say if it's a 2-hour networking event, I'm happy to walk away with 1 or 2 leads.
Yeah.
Because when I'm talking to you,
Reasonable.
I'm not trying to just pitch you as far as what I do. I want to get to know who you are as a person. I want to build that relationship.
Right.
And people,
Listen and be
Exact-
authentic. and-
yeah, because I have other colleagues that are like, hey, there's 60 people in the room. Hey, I gave everyone my business card, and you know, I'm gonna reach out to them after this, you know, networking event. I'm gonna set up a coffee time. But for me, I can't do that.
But
Like,
that's the way things have always been done. I mean, honestly, for years, right? They do the whole, I mean, over the last, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're older, so we've seen it all.
Yeah, we've seen it all.
I've been, yeah, as in the
I
trade
need to
show.
talk to them about Fusion.
Yeah, I was about to
That
go
just
get
came to my
my.
mind.
Yeah, we start with this- yeah,
We'll show you a little
I'll
something.
talk to you about that after.
No
after
problem.
this.
Anyway, we probably should wrap it up.
Yeah, so your ask of our community.
Yes.
I'll just take over for Nick for a second.
it's just more of spreading awareness, and I'm happy to talk in front of any other. You guys are the second state university that I have spoken at, so I just want to spread awareness and be able to inspire other entrepreneurs on my journey. And mental health is one big one because I suffer from it, and I just started kind of opening up about it because I literally ate me up alive for like 15 years since 2002, and I actually went to go see a therapist back in 2021 where I was diagnosed with PTSD. So I'm thinking that, you know, hopefully I would forget about it, but I still do get flashbacks and stuff. But
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
And I think it's great that you're talking about it because talking about it's part of like
The process.
getting the awareness, education, access, et cetera, right?
Exactly.
And knowing where it stems from, right? 'Cause
Correct.
We're like, what has happened? Like, why? And now you know.
Absolutely.
I think there's more and more, and I'll use that as a jumping point to say that, I think there's more and more of PTSD out there that people don't even realize. Whether it's from wildfires, or whether it's from, you know, other disasters, that also becomes a PTSD event. In addition, I mean, you know, there's the long-term military, like yourself, like military exposure, right? Shell shock, you know, et cetera. But there's other trauma that happens in people's lives that can be flashback inducing. So whether it's, you know, physical or emotional abuse as well. So I think that's people have a tendency to associate PTSD mostly with military
Yes.
stuff. But I think
Lots of different forms.
there's lots of different ones. So I really commend you for talking about
You're welcome.
that.
Absolutely.
So, James, do you have any more questions for this gentleman before we sign off for the day?
No, I mean, I probably could ask you a lot of questions because I find what you do very interesting, but I will say no
Yeah.
for the sake of time.
Actually, so while we have both of you, has anybody plugged the Grow Tech Fest?
We are going to, yeah.
Okay, let's plug Grow Tech Fest.
James is in Wisconsin, by the way.
James, you're in
But
Wisconsin.
you're welcome to fly out.
Yeah. Okay.
Wouldn't
So-
hate it.
I don't know if you heard, I don't know if you, what time you came in, but his wife actually grew up in Chico until about 2nd grade.
Oh,
So there's a connection.
yay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Grow Tech Fest is the only entrepreneurial conference north of Sacramento. We're doing our 4th year this year. It's at Sierra Nevada Brewery's big room where they often host little concerts as well. We'll have representatives from different, from the startup standpoint, we'll have representatives from different counties talking about what different startups will be coming to present
Their
for-
ideas.
from different counties, but we also have keynote speakers on both days, October 11th to 12th, by the way. And we have investors from all over California coming, and it's not a pitch competition. It's really about celebrating and elevating this story of the entrepreneurial spirit and culture in the North State. So we have a myriad of different things going on during the day. We have keynote speakers, we have the usual luncheon, the bar opens at noon, the important stuff. Right? Industry speakers, which is a code for workshops, but more of a subject matter expert on either things like servant leadership or how
AI, of course,
AI, of course,
topic of
right?
the century.
And the ROI on DEI, right? So on diversity, equity, inclusion, because I think a lot of that topic has been tossed around a little. I think that in not always a respective way, more of an aspirational way. And I think that when we talk about the actual return on investment on putting together this kind of awareness, access, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's beyond just awareness, right? So, we really want to talk about what the ROI is on it, because I think that's going to get people's attention.
And then we have some startup icons that have been there, done that, paved the way for other entrepreneurs that will be having one-on-one conversations with on stage as well. So
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's 2 days.
good networking.
Yes, great for networking. So be there. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Good.
Nick, you're
Nick,
on.
you're on.
Let's do it.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
That's right. I got my stage play.
I was gonna say, you should have this memorized.
I should, but I got the things. I also have to be able to tab through it.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I actually have to head out for another call in just a few minutes.
James,
But
thank
thank
you
you
so
all,
much.
The man.
thank you all so much. I appreciate you having me, and thanks for all the great conversations and questions and thoughts, and have a good rest of your
Most
day.
welcome. If there's anything you think of after you leave and
Thanks,
vice
James.
versa, we will connect with you for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everyone have a great day.
You
All
too,
right, bye,
Tim.
James. And let's
Thanks.
give Jovan one more hand for PremiumShotz. What an amazing presentation, amazing story. Again, my name is Nicholas Stamper. I've been your host and organizer. I would love to thank Eva Shepard for getting this whole event together for all of us. Again, we have to thank our community sponsors: Chico Start, Grow Tech, Global Entrepreneurship Network, Build with Ferguson, America's SBDC NorCal, Startup Grind, and of course, Stovall Coffee. Here are some of our events upcoming. As we just mentioned, Grow Tech Fest 2023, October 11th through 12th, all at Sierra Nevada this year. Early bird ticket sales ends August 31st. Throughout next week, starting on Saturday, we have the Chico Lunar Market from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then we will be working directly with Clean Start at Paradise in the Park Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. And then again for the downtown Chico's Farmers Market Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m.
All things clean tech.
We'll also be doing a workshop at the Paradise Chamber on the afternoon
Lunch and learn.
of the 20th.
Yes, July 20. All right, as always, we are Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on Zoom. Go check out our website at chicostart.com and sign up for the Chico Start newsletter. And I want to leave everybody off on this one quote from Sean Jay-Z Carter. One of the biggest things in business is to open yourself up to change. Don't be stagnant.
Right.
Always be open to change. Besides that, it's been a great presentation. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you next week where we will have Plumas Wood Fiber with Jeff Grief, who was here earlier. Bye, Kent. Good to see you, man.
All righty.
Hey,
Yeah, from the car. Maybe I'll be in a better,
Yeah.
in a room actually next time. You never know.
All right. Bye, Kent.